Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Today we are talking all about how to become a hacker in 2024. Now, this is a video that is a tribute to the 10,000 sub mark that we hit. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys. If you're new here, hit that sub button. We're trying to get to 100,000 now. We're trying to go all the way. So thank you guys so much. Let's get into it. Hit that like button. But I did a video similar to this in 2023, but I think it wasn't as detailed as the one I'm going to do today. So the first thing I want to cover is I usually get a lot of hate for being realistic in this career field. And what I mean is I did a video on why you're not getting a job, and people said I was gatekeeping and all this other crap. I was being realistic, right? So what we're going to talk about first is what hacking is not, okay? And the first thing is hacking is not an entry-level job. Okay, that is something that people have to get out of their head and have to understand. It is not an entry-level job. What I mean by that is, okay, a lot of people come to me and say, hey man, I've been doing Hack the Box, I've been doing try hack me, I've been doing XYZ, I've been doing it for a year, I'm pretty good, and they may be the best in the world, I don't know. But I would not hire them. Why? You don't have experience, okay? So what people are sitting there saying, well, that doesn't seem right. Well, let me ask you this. If you had $1 million sitting in your bedroom and everybody knew it, okay, people are going to come get that $1 million. If you go to hire a security guard and he goes, nah, dude, I've been practicing my backyard, I've been shooting, I'm good, I work out, I'm good, are you going to hire that guy? Or are you going to hire the guy that says, no, I got 10 years, I've been protecting the president? You're hiring that guy, right? It's the same thing as like a doctor. A lot of people compare this, or I use this analogy a lot. A lot of people wouldn't go hire a doctor that goes to school or, does this on his free time, right? What I mean by that is it takes a long time. It takes a established process. When you go to school as a doctor, right? You go to school, they don't just go, yep, you went to school, boom, you're a doctor now. They make them do clinicals or whatever they're called, where they have to actually physically work in a hospital for a long time. They have to do all that stuff, and they have to get experience. They have to. It's the only way to be good at something, okay? So I'm not harping on it. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but if you don't have any real-world experience, you're going to struggle, and I'm going to explain why. So we know that hacking is not an entry-level job, okay? I've talked about that. I've talked about it a million times. What else is it not? It's not something you can learn in a year, okay? This is not something you're just going to start tomorrow, boom, a year later, you're the best hacker in the world. It takes a long time. Where people struggle, and this is what I see time and time and time again, because so many content creators, so many people sell this dream, okay? Here's where the reality hits. If you go straight to hacking, you missed all the fundamentals down here, okay? So now when you go try and get a job, they're going to ask you basic stuff, and you're going to have no idea, and you're going to look silly. The other thing is, even if you do get a job, you're going to struggle, because think about try hack me, okay? Or Hack the Box. You hack into a machine and you get a flag. That's it. Okay? What now? What now? What's the next step? Right? Because when you're doing a pen test, that's the first step. You just did the first piece. Okay, cool. First piece done. Now what? Well, if you don't know how an IT enterprise system works, you are going to struggle. You are going to hurt yourself a lot. The other thing is this is not something you can learn without doing it, okay? What I mean by that is you can't learn this just from a book. You can't. I don't know how many of you guys are old enough, but Good Will Hunting was one of my favorite movies. When Robin Williams was talking, he said, I bet you can tell me everything about the Sistine Chapel, right? I bet you can tell me everything about what war is like, right? But you've never been there. You've never fought. You've never smelled what that place smells like. You've never experienced it, right? Think of it that way. You can read every book in the world about hacking. If you've never touched that keyboard, you're going to struggle. Now, I'm getting all the tough parts out of the way so I can talk about how to actually do it. So what we're going to talk about is how to avoid a lot of that struggle. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop into it. And I know that was a pretty downward slope, right? Like it sounds like you guys aren't going to be able to do it. You can do it 100%. You can do it. It just takes time and dedication. And the reason for that is I talked about that example earlier, who you're going to hire. Think about it this way. Almost every hacking job, cybersecurity job has 500, 600, 700, 800 to 1,000 applicants. Okay, you have to stand out. How do you stand out if most of them have experience, right? Why would someone hire you? There's not a shortage of people in this career field. There's a shortage of skilled people. And so that's what we're going to try and get you to. So let's go ahead and hop into it. So the first thing is get curious. This is the one thing you cannot teach in cybersecurity that will take you so much further. Curiosity and ambition. That will take you all the way to the top. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, I can't tell you how many people I've done CTFs we do the Discord CTF weekly, we do all that stuff. Okay, I can't tell you how many people I've seen that are like, well, I was trying to do this, 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 and this. And it's because they saw that or read that, and that was the exact path they were taking, and that's all they could do. And they go, well, when that didn't work, I didn't know what to do. You have to be curious. You have to try new things. That's what Try Hack Me and Hackbox websites are for. They are for you to mess up there, not on a pen test. Okay, so the other thing, I see this all the time. If there's anything out of the norm, anything, right? If there's a box or you're doing a pen test or whatever, and there's something out of the norm, people without curiosity do not find it because they follow a standard procedure, and that's all they do. They say, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. Boom. You have to be curious. You have to want to explore. You have to need to explore. You have to have a desire to explore. This is a harsh reality. This career field may not be for you if you don't. And I hate to say that, but ambition and curiosity are the two things that'll take you the furthest. Okay? Ambition is obvious. Someone that's ambitious, that wants this bad, they will make it happen. This video may help them, but they were going to succeed regardless. If you're ambitious, if you want it, if this is the career you really want, you will make it. And I'll tell you that right now. The problem is the people that think they want it, but they're not putting in those hours. They're not putting in that time. They're not putting in the effort, right? You can really take your time in this career field too. You could sit there and get a help desk job, sysad, system engineer, security analyst, and work your way up, right? And you could do that slowly, fast, however you want to do it. That's the beauty of this career. Now, we've got the ugly bits out of the way, but when I say that's not experience, it's not a job, an entry-level job, I want to show you guys, because some people might say, well, I've seen entry-level, but I'm telling you, this is not across the board an entry-level job. Now, there might be a 1% that hires an entry-level, junior level, or something like that. That's not what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and hop into it. So first you see, this is just a pen tester and vulnerability management engineer, I guess. I just searched pen tester, and you can see 3 years of overall IT experience, okay? One certification, at least one certification. And this is probably the least amount of experience I've found. What I mean is 3 years, and here's the thing. A lot of people get this confused. They go, well, yeah, you need 3 years of IT, you need 3 years of vulnerability management, you need 3 years of ethical hacking, you need 2 years of incident management, and that's like 12 years or whatever. No, it's not. You can do all this in 3 years. You can do this. I mean, you can have one job that does all this. If you're doing vulnerability management, you could still be doing ethical hacking. You could still be doing incident management, right? You don't have to do all this in different times. Now, the other thing here to take away is this 3 years of system administration. That is the route that I tell a lot of people to go if they don't want to do help desk, is try to go to system administration. That is a step up from the help desk, but that will get you a lot of experience. Now, you can see here another pen tester. We're just going to just look at a couple to show. This one, okay, high school GED. Okay, this one says a PhD and a master's. You don't need this, I will tell you that. And you can see it says Washington, D.C., 8750 cert, blah, blah. Okay, so you can see this is a top secret clearance, so we're going to skip that because you don't need We're not talking about military here. Okay. 0 to 2 years of relevant professional experience performing penetration testing. So this one, experience with hands-on, this one actually calls out Hack the Box. So that's pretty cool. I like that. I think this is a really good one. But this is a consultant, okay? So this one actually is 0 to 2 years. So this is the least amount of experience I've seen. So you still need around 2 years. Now I know it says 0 to 2, but you can see it's going to say that's performing penetration testing. So if you start right now, you need to be performing penetration testing for 2 years. So this is simple. This is the pen testing, and you can see the requirements. This is senior level, so we're not going to do that. This is a penetration testing engineer, and then this is penetration testing. You can see that it's the experience is you need a lot of experience, right? Now the system administrator, obviously the salaries are lower, but look, this one I found just one year. It doesn't matter what year experience is. It could be help desk. It could be anything. They just want 1 year of experience. Right? IT experience. Now look at the skills. Excellent analytical problem solving and evaluation skills, strong negotiation, just basic skills. These are the jobs you should be applying for if you are trying to get into this field, not the pen testing job, okay? Now, keep in mind also, system administrator jobs also are not usually the first entry into IT. Usually it's a help desk. So if you can't get this, you may need help desk. Now I know this says 5+ total years of experience in IT support roles with minimum of 2 of those being equivalent. Okay, I get that. I see that. But that doesn't mean that that's a hard requirement. What I mean is, I'll say this, a lot of jobs, HR fills these out. This is not what the person hiring will require. Okay, now 5 years total of an experience in IT support, you can make that happen without having an active job in IT, and I'm going to talk about that. So that is different than a direct penetration testing experience, because for penetration testing experience, they will expect a job in it. Okay. So what do we start with? We'll start with this. If you start right now today with nothing, right? I recommend, and this is not a roadmap. This will not guarantee you a job. All that stuff that they sell you on different content creators and all that. I recommend A+, Net+, Sec+. The reason I recommend these, a lot of people will say, well, A+ is useless. I agree with you, okay? But keep in mind, when you're getting certs, you want to be cost effective and thoughtful. You have to renew these every 3 years, right? If you get these 3, they give you the cert that's called, I don't know what it's called, but it's one cert for all 3, and it auto renews all 3 of them. So you don't have to keep renewing these. You don't have to keep up on them. If you get 2, you have to keep renewing them and keep up on them. If you get all 3, it becomes 1 cert and you can renew them. So I recommend these 3. Then I recommend Pentests Plus and CYSA. Now the only reason I recommend these are entry-level security certs, okay? But they have recognizability and recognition in the industry, and they also have gives you some legs to stand on. When you go to apply for a job, if someone else doesn't have these, you look a little bit better. Even if you don't have the experience, you look a little bit better. So I recommend this. This is the certs that I recommend you get. Keep in mind, if you guys are watching this and you've got experience and you've got a couple years in the industry and you're like, well, those certs aren't great, this is for people that are starting from scratch and working their way up, right? We're going to get to the more advanced of what we need to do, but these are the certs that I recommend you get in the first year. In 2024, get these certs, okay? Even if you have experience in this industry, get these certs. They're easy. When I say they're easy, you can knock out these 3 certs in a couple of weeks. You can knock out these 2 certs in a couple of weeks. The books are only about that thick. You read it once, you go take the test. I understand it's not that easy for everybody, but I'm telling you, these certs are not geared towards 10-year professional veterans. These certs are entry-level certs. So get these certs and focus on improving your skill set and not just taking the test. Okay, now, if you can do it in 2024, if you can do it, keep that in mind. That's a key thing. If you can do it, because not everyone's a good test taker, get OSCP. It's the most recognized. It'll get you the furthest. I understand it's hard. I understand you may not be there yet. If you can't do it in 2024, that's fine. Take your time. Don't get it in 2024. That will just take you a little step above. So I recommend it if you can get it. Now, one thing I'll tell you right now is one of the most common things I see missed is the hacking mindset that people used to have back in the day. So, for instance, we're going to talk about Sentinel-1 here. This is an EDR tool, endpoint detection and response, right? So this tool sits on the machine and detects attacks, right? Pretty simple. Well, what I don't see anymore with the new hacking class, I guess you'll say, the new people coming in, is the curiosity, like I said. So the way hackers got good before, because there was no like school, right? When I started hacking, there was no, hey, take this course, take this course, take this course. Now there's like so many courses out there and they're all okay, right? So what I noticed before is, like, for instance, when I was learning endpoint detection and response bypassing, the first thing I did was like, well, okay, let's download the EDR tool and try and bypass it. I don't see that anymore. And that's not me tooting my own horn. It was just the lack of resources before. We just didn't have the classes. So you can take classes, but that curiosity is going to get you further. What I mean by that is download EDR tools, okay? Look for free ones. There's all kinds of them. Download them. Even use Microsoft Defender, whatever, and bypass them. How do you bypass them? That's exactly it. Start learning. Start practicing. Look for ways that you can think about how they work, right? Most EDR tools, well, most commercial EDR tools have a feature that have to have basically a password to get them off the machine. Everyone knows that. See if you can try and get around them by, if you can take over the machine, can I get that password? Things like that. Just mess around. Have fun. Put them in a VM and mess around. Try and break them, right? That's what you want. You want to mess around with them, right? See what alerts, what doesn't. What if I do this, does it actually alert? If I do this, does it alert? Etc., etc. That's one thing I don't see people doing anymore. They just want the information and go. They don't want to sit there and mess around with stuff. And I'm not saying that's wrong or right. I'm just saying messing around and breaking things and trying to fix them and everything else gets you so far in this industry. Troubleshooting is the #1 skill set that is slowly declining because people aren't having to troubleshoot very much anymore. Okay, so I already talked about getting a job as a system administrator and security admin, even help desk. So get a job. Now, I'm not saying that like a get a job, you loser. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying get a job in this industry, because the faster you start in this industry, the faster you will start progressing. 100%, I'm telling you, this is the case. So I hear people all the time, well, I'm in school. I don't care. Go get a part-time help desk job. Get a system administrator job. Work from home on the, for 4 hours a night, something. Get in the industry. Getting your foot in that door is going to take the longest, and it's going to be the hardest, because you're going to be applying for those entry-level jobs. Once you get past that entry level, you can move around. You can start getting jobs, right? Once you get past that like stuck point, you can move, right? That's the hard part for people, because a lot of them, they don't have the experience that's required on the jobs. Apply for them anyway, okay? Eventually, someone will take a chance on you, and you'll get your foot in the door. Now, keep in mind, the company that takes a chance on somebody that has no experience may be a company that's lacking security, but you're getting your foot in the door. You're starting to work in the industry. The biggest thing, just work in this industry. Not necessarily security, but IT. Work in IT, okay? IT experience will take you further. For instance, I know people in the Discord that have talked to me that 2 years ago when I started the Discord, they've been in it the whole time, and they're like, yeah, man, just look at, I might be getting this cert next week or whatever, and they're still wondering why they're not in. They're still sitting there going, well, yeah, I'm just having a tough time. They could have got a job 2 years ago, and now they have 2 years experience, right? Now if they start again, they're starting back at the bottom. You need to get your foot in the door and just start, okay? Now, okay, that stuff may seem simple and easy to you guys, like obviously, right? Now, what we're going to talk about here's ways that you can set yourself apart, okay? So one thing you can do, use the Att&ck Framework. So I've talked about this. I've done videos on this Att&ck Framework. Start tracking APTs. So what I mean by that, build out rules, build out playbooks based on APTs. Do you know how impressed I'd be if I interviewed a guy and he's like, yeah, I want to be an analyst for you or something, right? And you're like, okay. And they say, and here is all the APTs that I've tracked and the rules you should put in place to prevent them. Do you know how impressed that would be? I've never seen someone do that. At least not, I've seen someone do it, but not in an interview, right? I've never seen anybody do that. So go in the Att&ck MITRE framework, track APTs. If you don't know about the Att&ck framework, feel free to watch one of my other videos on it, or just look it up. It tells you all about it. And then start building out rules that they could put in place in their sim, whether they, whatever you want, or start building out rules that they could put in place in their EDR tools, whatever. Just build out a playbook for it, right? Hey, this APT does X, Y, Z. We saw them here. Let's stop them here, right? Build that playbook out. It's not hard. They're not complex. The APTs have a pattern. Start building them out. This will set you apart. Why? Because nobody else is doing this, okay? Now, this specifically, you don't have to do this exact thing. Just do something like it, right? But if you build out a playbook and you have these when you go to an interview, say, hey, look, I know I don't have the experience, but here's what I've been doing while trying to gain that experience. And here is me tracking these APTs. Here is how you prevent them in the future, blah, 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 blah. You are going to impress them. I'm telling you, you're going to impress them. It also shows your willingness and want, your ambition, okay? Now, the next thing we need to do is get real world experience. Even if, try not to sneeze, guys, hold on. Okay, I'm going to sneeze, but it's going to, I don't know when it's going to come. Excuse me. Okay, so get real world experience. You do not have to work in this industry to get real world experience. You do not. First off, in today's world with VMs, you can spin up, especially with the cloud, you can spin up an entire enterprise level lab for yourself. And you can do that simply and in a couple of hours. There's some great tutorials on YouTube on how to create an Active Directory lab. Start with that. Then build out applications. Then build out how they talk to each other. Then et cetera, and build out an infrastructure. You can do this for very, very cheap, okay? And some cases free, depending on how big your environment is. Now, this will get you so far because Active Directory is obviously the number one thing that people use for IAM. The other thing is, as you're building out applications, you're going to see how they talk to each other. You're going to see set up SSO, set up MFA, start setting these things up. And you're going to have that experience. Even if you go into an interview and they're like, well, we see here you don't have experience. Well, maybe I don't, but I do know how to do this, this, and this, right? And they're going to be like, well, the guy with 5 years experience didn't know how to do that. So this guy probably has something to offer. Let's do a second interview maybe. Let's learn a little bit more about what he's doing. So do that. Get internships if you're in school, okay? Internships will help you a ton. Yes, it looks good on a resume, but when you're in the internship, ask, okay? Have ambition. I can't stress it enough. I've had interns that sit there and do nothing. I've had interns that are begging me day in, day out to give them more stuff. Those are the guys that I'm like, let's hire this guy because he's been pestering the shit out of me and all he wants is more knowledge, more information. He wants to learn. He wants to help. Let's get that guy over here. So that's your best bet. A lot of times I see people get internships and they say, oh, they didn't offer me a job. Did you really want it? You know what I mean? Did you really go for it? Probably not as much as you think you did. Because I'm telling you, there's people that have begged. Start asking to shadow people. Go to companies. Hey, I'm a cybersecurity student. I'm trying to learn. I'd really like to shadow your security team and just kind of see what they do. Maybe take notes and just learn, right? You'd be surprised. You might get turned down 9 times. That 10th time, you might get it, right? I've had people do this, and I've let them shadow. Now, that sounds easy, right? And I understand it's hard for people. Like, a lot of people are like, well, I feel like an idiot, da-da-da. Okay. Would you rather feel like an idiot, or would you rather be in cybersecurity? It's up to you. That's the difference, okay? Now, this all sounds really hard. It's not. This is stuff that is hard when you're thinking about it. It's not hard when you do it. And what I mean is, it's very scary to walk into a company and say, can I talk to your IT manager? And then say, yeah, I'm a student, I'd like to do this. That is very scary for some people, okay? But once they say yes or no, you leave, you never see that person again. It's not scary anymore, right? Those are the things that are going to set you apart. Next thing, build a portfolio. Now, this is something that most programmers do, okay? This portfolio is just the YouTube's channel, the different tools we've created on the YouTube channel. That's all it is. So, but if you put this on your resume, I can go here and see what you're capable of, what you've done, right? I can do that. So keep that in mind, that if you actually do put a portfolio out there and it has good tools, I can look and see that. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, one thing I've noticed is a lot of people only use GitHub portfolios for tools. You don't have to just use tools. Put walkthroughs in here. Put guides in here. Put best practices in here. Put things that you think are relevant in cybersecurity in here. That will help you a ton, because if I open up your GitHub and it's all categorized and it says, Pentest documents, you click on it and it's got your templates and your checklists and all this, I'm like, holy shit, this guy is on his P's and Q's. He knows what's going on, right? You might have zero experience in the real world, but if I go in here and it looks like it should, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Maybe this guy is on to something. Maybe he knows something, right? Because you categorized it, you've got your documents in order, you got everything you need. So some of it will require some research, but it will open some eyes, right? Keep in mind, you're just trying to get past that HR filter. That's what the certs are for. Once you get past that, it's on you, right? That's where your resume comes in. That's where your interviewing skills come in. Now, with that, get your resume up to date. Not only up to date, but get your resume catered to those lists or to those jobs. So for instance, this job right here takes, okay, that's specifically to Costco, so we're not going to talk about that, but automates, documents, shares, educates, delegates, and improvises processes, builds prototypes of potential features. So we're looking for, see if they have anything specific. Here we go. Works with compliance, internal audit, and business teams. Okay, so in your resume, put in there the compliance standards that you're familiar with, right? You're catering your resume to this right here. The reason is, if you guys have never seen how HR, now not all HR does this, but HR usually puts them in a filtering tool, and that filter will tell them how compatible it is, and then they move them on if they're compatible. Now, not every HR does that. I'm just saying that that happens. So keep that stuff in mind, that if you're not catering it, you're losing out on a lot of positions. So cater your resume. It takes time. It's a pain in the butt. I understand that, but do it. It will save you countless hours of going, why did I not get that job? I was the best, right? Well, maybe you never got through the HR filters. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to talk about is soft skills, okay? This one, I'm going to be honest with you, this is tough for a lot of people, but this is something you have to get good at. This will take you further than any technical ability, anything. Soft skills, okay? Most of you are familiar with what soft skills are, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Communication. Talking to people. Sounds easy, sounds simple. This also counts as emails, things like that. Again, sounds simple, sounds easy. I cannot tell you how many problems over the years I've had when running a team with communication. What I mean by that is, the number one problem I have is not, hey, this person broke my server, hey, this happened, It's, look at how this person talked to me. Look at what this person said. Look at it's communication. And a lot of that is absolutely silly, because usually it's a misunderstanding. Usually it's, well, he was sending you a Teams or a Zoom or an email or whatever message, and you just misunderstood the tone. But guess what? There's nothing we can do at that point, because they're already mad. So working on communication is huge, 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 huge. The other thing is public speaking. I understand we're in IT. A lot of people don't like to public speak, but if you get your foot in the door at a company and you are openly, actively willing to participate and speak to everybody, okay? Meaning hey, the director wants to talk to you about this vulnerability. Perfect. Bring in the CISO, bring in this person. I'll explain it to everybody. And if you're good at it, they're going to keep calling on you, keep calling on you, keep calling on you. And they're going to remember who you are, remember you're good, and you're going to just start skyrocketing. Public speaking, communication, explanations, these things are amazing because in IT, most of the time you have to explain to people that are not IT savvy. So if you get good at that, it is a soft skill that will take you so far. Okay. And then the last one is documentation. Okay. This is a soft skill, but it's also a kind of required skill. Documentation. If you are good at documentation, I don't care if you have zero technical ability. If you can show me you're good at documentation, you're automatically above the guy right here with great technical ability to me. Why? Because most people don't like documentation, right? So if I can rely that you 100% are good at documentation, I do not have to stress about reviewing your documents, and I don't have to worry about, is it up to snuff? I don't have to like try and pull your teeth to get you to write them, that type of thing. So let's go ahead and look at some documentation. So here is, for instance, this is the one I'm going to show you because I didn't want to do just the security one. These are just templates, but I'm going to show you things that you can do to prove this, right? Put these in your portfolio. So you can see right here, security assessment template. I downloaded that for us, right? It's just a template. Pretty simple, right? A security assessment template. Here's the executive summary. Here's the detailed assessment, blah, blah, blah. When you're doing security assessments, even if you're doing them on your own systems, when you're doing them for your portfolio, now I'll tell you, what I used to do is and then most of you guys have heard this story, but this is how I actually got started. I would go do security assessments for companies for letters of recommendation. This was because I didn't have experience and I needed experience. So I would do this. 9 times out of 10, I'd get turned down. But when they did it, I would write up a report for them, right? Executive summary. Here's the assessment. Here's what's going on, all that stuff, right? This is a decent template. Okay. So when that happens, I then can put this with my document, right? Now, you would have to redact all of the information as far as the company and all that stuff, obviously, but you could have all this so that when someone says, oh, you do risk assessments, you could say, yeah. And they could say, can you talk about that? Well, I'll do you one better. I can show you, here's all the redacted information from all my security assessments. And also here's my letters of recommendation, right? These things are invaluable. Now you can see there's templates all over the place. Get some templates. The other one here is Pentester checklist. So I will tell you, don't just copy this checklist and then go over to GitHub and put it on there and say, yep, here's my checklist that I follow, right? Don't do that, but use it as a template to make your own checklist. And when you have a checklist, if you're getting a cybersecurity interview, they can say, hey, keep in mind when you're doing an interview, you don't have to not have anything. You can bring papers in. You can say, hey, yeah, here's my notes. And they'll say, oh, you brought notes? Say, yeah. Say, I can't memorize everything. I've got too much. I've got so much going on. I can't memorize everything. Say, I've got my checklists. I've got my executive summaries. I've got everything. And I can't memorize all that. So I brought it in so that if you guys want to view it, you can. Simple. You don't have to, you're not trying to prove to them that you have all this memorized. You're proving to them that you're capable of doing it. So this is the OWASP. So this is only web application, but this is the actual checklist for the OWASP top 10, okay? Or web application security, whatever. So keep in mind, this stuff, you can use all this, right? You can create this and make it your own and then say, hey, okay, cool, we did this. And I did this on XYZ applications, right? So you can do this on your own home. You can get permission, written permission, and do vulnerability assessments for companies. Let me tell you guys a little secret. You can even go to somebody that you know and say, hey, you have a very small network. Maybe you have a home network. Let me do a security assessment on it and write me a letter of recommendation, right? You can do all this stuff and get referrals and documents and things like that. Now, one thing I'll say I see this a lot. If school is right for you, don't just complete your degree. I see this all the time. I tell people all this and they go, well, I'm in school right now. So, when school's done, I'll get it. Okay. Well, you spend that 4 years and everyone will be 4 years above you. What I mean by that is a degree is the same thing as me reading a book in cybersecurity. It's great. I think you should do it, but it's not going to get you a job. It might help. It will help you get a job for sure. But if you still don't have any experience, you're still disqualified for all those jobs, right? So when you're learning your degree, get a part-time job, IT help desk, get a part-time job as a sysad, get a part-time job anywhere as IT, okay? Or, keep doing this stuff while you're doing it, right? You have to come out of that degree, because here's what happens. I see a lot in college. Let's say 100 of you graduate. Guess what? You all live in the same area because you all go to school. Now 100 of you just apply for the same job. I see this all the time. I see the applications, and it's the same or you can tell they're in the same class. The resume's in the same format. Everything's the same. They live in the same city, whatever, right? That is so obvious, right? That you have to stand above those people. So do all this, get the experience, that type of thing. Yes, internships help a lot. Don't get me wrong. Get an internship. But guess what? Everyone in your class got an internship too. So you need to stand above them. And I know a lot of this, guys, keep saying it sounds like a lot. It's not. It sounds like a lot because you're thinking of it all at once. Think of it, each piece that I've said. They're all very simple. How hard would it be for you to take this checklist, manipulate it, edit it to what works for you, and make your own checklist? And as you're doing application pen testing, you're editing it, right? You're just messing with it, making it exactly what works for you. How hard would that be? Probably take you less than an hour. So think of that stuff. The other thing I'll tell you is I get this question a lot. What programming language do you think is best? I don't think there's a best or a worst, but Python is one of the most used in cybersecurity, okay? So this is just a learnpython.org, super simple. It teaches you very basic Python. Again, here's advanced tutorials, all that stuff. This is just one site. There's a million sites. There's books. I'll tell you, when I learned Python, the easiest way for me to do it was I bought the book. I've seen it. Many people have it, actually. It's the book that teaches you how to code Python while writing video games. I love that. I loved it. I still have that book and I still use it because it's just a fun book, right? Learn Python. Python is such an easy language to learn, and it's so easy to use in cybersecurity that I recommend it for everybody. That's just a simple thing. And then what's this one? Oh, communication skills. So by the way, look up how to fix your communication skills if you're having struggles. I will tell you, a lot of people that have struggled with communication skills don't know they struggle with communication skills. So still work on it, even if you don't think you need to. So now, lastly, threat modeling, okay? If you're not familiar with threat modeling, this is, again, the OWASP. The reason I keep using OWASP is because it's a valid resource and you can trust it. So this is a structured approach. So you can use this if you want, but you don't have to use this, okay? This is to application threat modeling. So what this is you're going to take an application. You can do this with an environment as well. It doesn't have to be an application. And you're going to say, hey, okay, we have this application. What are the threats to it? How do we prevent it? Okay, you're modeling the threat landscape for that application. Do the same thing with your environment and write these down, right? Create a home network and write them down. Create a executive summary for these, okay? So, hey, we've got this application. There's a vulnerability right here, boom. Threat model it. What does that mean? Put it in, okay, is this your domain controller? Let's make it a crown jewel. So now the criticality's gone up. So document all this. Okay, perfect. Now we got it documented. This vulnerability is they have to be inside the network. So, okay, so let's map out what they can do, right? Write this down. You're going to say, this is how the attack could take place. Here's some of the tactics, techniques, and procedures that we're seeing in the industry when they're doing this. So how do we prevent them? Well, let's say they have to run a certain tool. Okay, they have to run this tool to get in, right? Okay, well, let's start with blocking that tool. Let's get the hash of that tool and let's block it. Then let's start and look at, what does that tool do? Oh, that tool runs these commands. Okay, let's start blocking those commands, and we're going to write all of this down in a plan. We're going to have a full plan, okay? And we're going to rank them. So what that means is this is your domain controller. It's got one vulnerability, and this is just a random server you have that has a critical vulnerability. Which one's more important? Well, I would say the domain controller. Even though this one's critical, this is a more important server. So you're modeling out the threats. So this is something that people, if you're very good at it, it will get you so far. And you can do this on any network in the world, because you can sit there and do this on your home network. You could say, well, my most critical server is my computer for me, because I don't want to lose my computer, right? You can do that. So look at the threat modeling process. Start learning threat modeling, because it'll help out a lot when you're actually doing these things. And I know, guys, a lot of this stuff is geared towards documentation and all this stuff, but that is a lot of this job that people don't do. The technical stuff, I can teach technical. You can't teach the ability to sit down and write documents. You can't teach the ability to be curious and actually want to explore things. You can't teach certain skill sets, the ambition, all that stuff. So lastly, the last thing I'm going to talk about is create scenarios. Build a home lab. Create a scenario. Put a if you've never heard of VulnHub, if you've never heard of Mutiliday, if you've never heard of Juice Shop, all these, they are vulnerable web applications, right? Those are just some examples, but create those actual vulnerable servers and create them on an enterprise level environment, meaning create them on a large environment and break into them, and then write up how you're doing it. Write up a full pen test. So stand up a lab, do a pen test. Now here's where I see a lot of people mess up. They go, yeah, I stood up this server, I hacked into it, yeah, it was a great experience. Okay, now what do you have to show for that? Do you have anything? No, you don't have anything. Why? Because you didn't do anything that a regular pen tester would do. What I mean is, a regular pen tester would go in and they would write, hey, I'm going to write a SLA, service level agreement, or I'm going to write an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, and then present that to the company, right? Or we're going to have a statement of work. We're going to have a SAL going back and forth. Write all that. You might be the person that's doing the work and the person that owns the company, right? So sign it. Got it. Now you have permission. Okay, so get your permission letter, sign it. Boom, now you have that. Go through all of your documents. Okay, now you have an executive summary of what your findings are. At the end of every day, you'll have a daily report, right? Have all that. Why? Because if you come to me and say, yeah, I've done a few pen tests, and I say, okay, cool, can you show me on what? And you're like, well, I did it at home on a lab. I'm going to be like, okay, thanks, because I don't know anything about it. If you say, yeah, I've done a few pen tests, here's all the documentation, it's all been redacted, don't worry. Boom. They're not going to say, was this your home lab? They're not going to say, what is this? They're going to look at all of your documentation and go, wow, this is pretty impressive. This guy knows what he's talking about. OWASP, once again, if you go to, I thought it was OWASP. Okay, this is just the one. But anyway, there's templates here. So this is the OSCP template. This is, there's all kinds of templates. But penetration testing report for internal lab and exam, right there. Boom. There's all kinds of templates out there. You can just look up templates. Start building these out, because again, what makes you get into this industry, what makes you become a hacker, is thinking differently. This is where people have to think differently. I see it so often. They're following, I saw it, and I'm not hating on Att&ck. I like Att&ck. I think he's a great content creator. I followed Att&ck's map, and I'm still struggling. Well, you know how many viewers Att&ck has? Hundreds of thousands. So guess who else followed that same path? Att&ck. So even me, I have 10,000 subs. If you follow this exact path, 10,000 people are going to follow it too. So don't do this exact path. Think outside the box. Use this as a template for what you're going to do, and get different ways you're going to do it. Get different examples of how you're going to do it. Change things a little bit. Hopefully this helps you guys, because I know this industry seems harsh. It seems hard. It is not if you break it down individually into individual pieces. Hopefully this helps you guys, and hopefully you guys can take this, move your way into 2024, and hopefully next year we've got a bunch more hackers out there that we can actually A, hire, and B, I can see some serious progress in the industry, because honestly, it's kind of scary to think how good attackers are getting. So we need the defense as well, and we need ethical people as well. So thank you guys, and hope you guys have a great day.